There. All right, we'll make a start. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you all here. This is Power BI for Government Community of Practice number 18. So great to have you here. It's a miserable day here in Melbourne, so it's great to be with you here online. Nice and warm inside. A little bit of housekeeping before we do kick off. So this event is run via Teams webinar. So you are more than welcome to ask any questions to any of our presenters. I'd ask that you would do that via the chat button. I will be recording this session, so the session will be recorded. So if you have to jump out early or one of your colleagues has missed it, you will find it on the YouTube channel, and I will send you a link to that probably tomorrow so you can go and watch the recording and pass that on to anyone else. So for housekeeping, if you want to ask a question, just please do put it in chat. If you do want to verbally ask a question, just raise your hand. Otherwise, if you can mute your mic, and if you're not presenting, if you can turn your camera off, just in case we have any bandwidth issues today. For those of you who haven't been here before, welcome. If it's your first time, this is the Power BI for Government Community of Practice. Essentially, what we're about is what it says in the left-hand bottom of that slide, is to connect, learn, and discuss with your Power BI colleagues across the government sector how you're using Power BI, what's happening with Power BI, what are your pain points of Power BI, what's new. So this is a quarterly meetup, and thank you for joining us. If I haven't met you before, my name is Warren Dean. I am the founder of DataTale, Power BI training and report development company. It's just me, and it's great to work and train with so many people in the government space. And if you have requirements for developing a Power BI report, or you've developed a report and you want help in terms of best practice, if you or your team need training or how to roll out Power BI across your organization, please do get in touch. I would love to chat with you and talk to you and see how I can support you in that. I'll just drop my contact details in the chat for you. Obviously, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or via any of the socials. I'll put the link in there for you. Do feel free to check out my website, datatale.com.au. You can see all the different people that I've worked with and organizations. Again, September, I have a lot of capacity. So if you're interested in training or any Power BI work, please do get in touch. But in terms of our session today, really want to welcome Freya and Sahil. Thank you for coming along. Two really interesting presentations in two different spaces. So I think you're going to get a lot and learn a lot. I will also give you a little bit of an update of what's happening in the world of Power BI. But before that, always like to have some freebies. So if you are keen in the Microsoft Power BI Quick Start Guide, this one's more for beginners. So if you haven't used Power BI for, let's say, over a year, if you'd like to win this book, I will post it out to you. Microsoft Power BI Quick Start Guide. I will put the link in the chat. Let me just grab that for you. And just a free gift if you would like to just put your full name in there, and I will draw the winner at the end of today's session. So let's jump in. Power BI, what has happened in the last 3 months? Now, it has been a slow 3 months in terms of Power BI releases. I do have a few interesting things to show you, but what my most interesting find this quarter has been is digital.atlas.gov.au. Now, not a Power BI product, but a very handy tool, especially if you're in the planning space, or if you need to use maps within your Power BI reports. This resource works very well with Power BI, and let me bring it up so that you can see it. I've got too many pages open. Where are we? Over here. Let me open this up over here. So digital.atlas.gov.au, there's nearly 400 data sets that you can look at. So if you want to know births by local government area, by SA2, you can click on any of these data sets. I've already pre-clicked on one here, And the great thing about this is if I click on full details, oh, no, that disappeared. Bring that back. Where'd you go? Over here. All right, you can filter the data. Oh, view map. Let's try that again. All right. Start from scratch. Click on one of the data catalogs. It's going to open for me correctly. It's always a problem when you're doing live demos. Let's just go back. No, it's lost it. Create a map. I just wanted to look at a pre-built map. Create a map. See what this one's doing. Okay. So here's a map. It's LGAs to 2023. And so it has the shapefile here. So it has all the boundaries. And if you click on download, you can click this CSV file, and that's the data. And you can also click the shapefile. I did try GeoJSON, but it failed. I tried the shapefile. And if I jump over into Power BI, I was able to build this report in like a minute. So I bring in the CSV data, which you've probably done before. Here I'm using Azure Maps. With Azure Maps here, I can jump down to the reference layer, and I just uploaded the shapefile. And so the shapefile's there. And once I've got that uploaded, I can go to the polygons, fill the color, and pick a particular element of the map. So here I've got the sum of persons for 2023, and I'm just doing conditional formatting. And so you can see here, as I zoom in the map, I have different colors. So the red is more. So I move around in the map. So this only took me a minute to set up. And so why I like digitalatlas.gov.au is all the shapefiles are already there for you. The data's already there for you. And if you have a look at this data file, if I open it up for you, it's a wealth of information in terms of, females age 0 to 4, like all the different groups, citizens, males, persons, so combined, people born in particular regions, all that data is all there for you. And it literally took me a minute. I just imported the CSV, and the shapefile, I just imported and uploaded a file here, and it was done. And I was able to have a look at the data like this. So really good resource, digital.atlas.gov.au. Recommend that you have a play around with that. A lot of data in there that you can pull into Power BI. The second update that I have for you is Sparklines. Sparklines GA are generally available. If you haven't used Sparklines before, you can put them into a table. Let me quickly jump back into Power BI. So here I have, I'll build another one for you. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see. So here I have a table. I have product and sales. Back up to here. I'll delete this one. If I click on sum of sales here, up here you'll see add a sparkline. So this was in preview. It's now generally available, so you can use it. Click on add a sparkline, and it's on sales because that's the value that I clicked on, and says what do you want on the x-axis. So I would like the year. Create. And that's how you can create a sparkline, and it just gives you a little bit of a trend. So I can see all of these 3, 4, 5 products, they all have an upward trend. I can jump into the sparkline settings here, and you can do things like if I want the highest point to be red. And so there's a few settings in there, but Sparklines is now generally available, so feel free to use that in all your Power BI reports. Next one I'll talk about is org apps in the Pro Workspace. If you haven't used apps before, I'll just jump onto the next slide. Apps are where end users are supposed to use your Power BI reports. So sometimes people share Power BI reports from in a workspace. A workspace is where you're meant to collaborate. So that's for the working team. When you want to give your Power BI report out to everyone in the organization, you should do that via the app. And now you have 2 choices on a Pro license. So you have org apps and the original apps. Original apps will eventually disappear, and it will only be org apps. Org apps have a lot more functionality than a normal app. You can have, as you see on the image here, you can have a bit of a welcome screen. You can have the little reports there, links to certain things. You put websites in there. So they're just trying to improve the apps. This is now available for Pro workspaces. So before it was a premium, you can now use this in Pro. So if you have a Pro workspace, you can start using org apps now. Another update that we saw is Azure Map. Azure Map, I just showed you before. A lot of organizations that I talk to have issues because being a government organization, we can't allow our government data to go offshore. And so Azure Maps, ArcGIS, Mapbox, IconMap, they all do this. They all send data offshore, process the data, and send it back. And so quite a few organizations have blocked maps in Power BI. Azure Maps now has tenant updates where you can control it, so it will only process your data for us within Australia. And so I did have a question from Michael. I'm not sure if Michael's on the line today from Glen Ira Council. He couldn't get this to work. So if you do use Azure Maps and you've turned on these tenant settings and you do have it to work, Michael would appreciate, drop your name in the chat and I can connect you both. Really good for organizations to be able to connect and talk about these types of issues. You can put it in the LinkedIn group that I have on LinkedIn. I know not a lot of people use it, but it's just good to have a place where you can connect. So yeah, Azure Maps, if you have governance settings that is turned off all your maps, you can use Azure Maps. It's in the tenant settings. You can restrict it to keep your data in Australia. If you've got that to work, please reach out and let me know. Michael from Glen Ira couldn't get it to work, and he'd love to connect with someone who did actually get that to work because he had a few issues with it. All right. Let's move on to our first presentation. Freya, if you'd like to take over the screen and share your screen and introduce yourself. And Freya's going to be talking about connecting people to data.
Hi, Warren. Thanks for handing the presentation to me. I just do a setup to share my PowerPoint. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here in this webinar. Today, I'm sharing the story, or in fact, the journey we had in our team using Power BI. And to give an introduction to myself, I work as administration officer in community services in Marunda City Council. MCH service is maternal and child health services that is offered by different councils within Victoria. And it includes different services for parents and the babies from the age of 0, from the time of birth, to age 5. And it is a free service for the families, and it supports them by providing information, advice, and personal support. And yeah, I also want to share with you, as administration officer, I'm working with maternal and child health service by helping on covering their inbox and MCH appointment line. And MCH appointment line is the main contact channel for communication with the parents. And when they need to book an appointment, they need to reschedule an appointment or cancel it or any other inquiry, the first contact point is calling the MCH appointment line. And therefore, yeah, it's very important we have a good communication and quick answer and fast response and on time to the request, and arrange it and connect them to the nurse and to the center. And generally, the reasons for calling MCH line is for booking an appointment or rescheduling, or sometimes they're running late. I don't know if you ever experienced being in touch with MCH service, but if you have a child or baby, or you had it or you plan to have it, you will be in touch with these services. And there will be many times in the morning you need to call and just ask for a quick reschedule, or just share with the team that you are running late, and you want to let the nurse know that you will not be on time for the appointment. Or sometimes parents call just for a quick advice, or just sharing with us that there are some minor symptoms and can they attend the appointment or not. And therefore, yeah, if there is a missed call when a parent call our number and we are not there, busy with another client or any other reason, we can't answer the call, the missed call will create an effect in the whole service, including the parent that's become upset. They want to let the nurse know that they're coming late, or if they need to reschedule an appointment, they create a stressful situation for them. And also, when we have a missed call and we can't let the nurse know we have a cancellation, and it's, for example, 8:30 or 9 in the morning, it's too late to fill the spot by booking another client. And therefore, yeah, somehow it will be wasted a slot of 45 or sometimes 90 minutes if it is a home visit. And when there is an interpreter booked, also there will be delay to let the interpreter know that the appointment is cancelled or rescheduled. And totally, this whole flow will create a chaotic or a stressful situation for the flow from the nurse, parent, the team leaders, and also the admin team. And because of this, handling calls on time and properly and reduce the voicemails or the missed calls, it's very important for the service, because it will result, if we have less voicemails or less missed calls, it means we will have higher quality of care for the families and more efficient services from the nurses and interpreters, and also better use of the budget. And in fact, that was that glitch that we started thinking about how we can use Power BI to help maternal and child health team to better manage the staffing that cover the phones, and they are the first front line for answering the calls. And it was interesting. I had the workshop of Power BI Basics with Warren about more than a year ago with my manager. And as a project, we said, okay, let's start a pilot project to see how we can better use the data we receive as a report of the incoming calls to our MCH line, and use it for better management and more efficient service offering to the clients, and help also the admin team and team leaders. Therefore, the reason to use Power BI for MCH call, the first one was combining daily spreadsheets. Generally, the team leader and the MCH administration manager receive a spreadsheet every day that includes a report of the incoming calls to the MCH line, and it includes information: who answered the call, the duration of the call, and if it was missed or went to the missed voicemail or any other thing. Therefore, we wanted to somehow automate this process so that have them in one place and easier to get the report from them, automate of this process to access these spreadsheets that just sent through email to the manager. And on the other hand, we were looking to see the pattern, if we can find, based on these reports, if there are peak hours during the day and how the distribution of the call is during the different days of the week. And yeah, how is the percentage of answer calls versus voicemails. And totally to have a shared truth among nurses, team leaders, admin, and admin manager to see how the service is working and how we can improve it. for better care of the families. And based on that, if we need to take some actions. Therefore, yeah, this pilot Power BI dashboard is created, and I want to share that the data in this Power BI dashboard is for 3 months period, and we try to have a good view of what's going on based on the answered calls to voicemails and within different days and different hours, how the distribution is going ahead, and also recognizing the hot days and times that, yeah, the phone is so busy and we have the largest number of voicemails. And it's important because a missed call or a voicemail means the parent was not helped at the moment it needed. And as I explained before, it creates a struggle among the whole service from different aspects. Here, I just give an overview of what from the data we found. As I mentioned, for 3 months. For 3 months, we had about 2,000 calls, and 78% were answered. 60% went to the voicemail, and 8% abandoned. Abandoned or missed calls are when just, yeah, the parent or anyone calls, hang up the phone. And yeah, it shows that I can say nearly from 6 parents, 1 couldn't get through when need support. And also we found Monday and Wednesdays are the busiest days based on the data. And the other thing that we try to analyze based on the data in Power BI was recognizing the busy times and day patterns. It seems 8:30 to 9:30 is the peak and crunch time. And maybe it makes sense that when the parents do I don't know, if have older child, do a school pickup and then said, okay, let's call the MCH for the other younger child to reschedule it, cancel it, or check for the next appointment, or if I have a question. Therefore, yeah, it's completely bold that 8:30 to 9:30 is the peak time that has the most pressure on the service, based on the hour block that you see here. And based on the days, we see Monday to Wednesday, we have higher numbers of calls that we receive. And Thursday and Friday, comparing to the 3 days of the week, are calmer. And totally Wednesday is the busiest time of the week based on the day patterns. And on the other hand, for overviewing the voicemails, we found not only 8:30 to 9:30 is the busiest time based on the received calls, also the largest number of voicemails are happening during this time. Therefore, it seems 8:30 to 9:30. Pardon? Yeah, 8:30 to 9:30 is the busiest slot of the peak hour of block of the day. And also, we have most of the voicemails, large number of them, also at this time, based on the hour distribution. Therefore, yeah, voicemail remains high totally during 9:30 to 11:30. I can say it in the afternoon it becomes better. And yeah, at the end, if I want to share with you what we plan to go after these steps, we plan to share it with the MCH coordinator and team leaders and share this dashboard with them, that I will also share it with you now in a minute, to see how we can help the staff, the parents, the nurses to somehow relieve this pressure on the service in the morning and on a busy day. Now that I'm just stop sharing my PowerPoint, I share the dashboard we created. Okay, you see the dashboards available? Okay. Yeah, and therefore we plan to share this dashboard with the team leaders of MCH to have a view of what's going on in the service based on the busiest days and hours of the week. And also we created a heat map here that show, yeah, on this 8:30 to 9:30 is the slot that it seems they need to have an action, maybe by adding extra staff for this first hour of the first 3 days of the week. It will be so helpful. And we plan to just overview it and check it in the next month, in the next 4 weeks, to see how this small change on adding one extra staff 8:30 to 9:30, or even for longer during the day, for the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday that are the busiest days, this small change can have effect. It seems it will have a big effect on reducing the number of the voicemails and the missed calls. And yeah, having less voicemails and missed calls means, interpret to us, having fewer missed parents and less stress and better service for the families. And hopefully there are information that could be inspiring for you if you are in community services or in different services in youth and youth services in age and disability. There are a lot of services across countries that they are in contact with clients through their communication through calls, and they get the information that can help them for budgeting and staff and capacity and different areas. From my part, it was somehow the end of my presentation. If there are any questions or any feedbacks, I would love to just hear your feedback and your ideas. And that's all from me. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Freya. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can put in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand. But yeah, it's great to see just transparency of that data, and I love that you've documented it, and now you're going to bring in an extra staff member and then actually test it and see what happens, and then you can trend that over time, and that's a great story to tell how that data has driven a decision to improve the services you're providing there. So thanks Freya, that's amazing.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, is there any questions? No, all good. Thank you. So before we go to Sahil, I do have a question, because I'm getting lots of emails saying no one got the invite today. Did anyone actually get an invite to today's session, or is all I've invited you all in? I think I'm going to have to move off Teams, because it's if you actually got an invite in your calendar event, and I didn't manually invite you, if you just want to put your name in the chat just so I know, because I think we're getting some serious issues with Teams webinar. I might have to look at another product, because nobody got a reminder today. Oh, good. Well, we will record this session. Yeah, thanks anyone. If you got any tips for me, put it in the chat, because I think we're going to have to move on to another product. I'll direct you to the registration page. Okay, cool. Thank you. Put your things in there in the chat. So I will share my screen. Sahil, would you like to go next? You can take over if you want to introduce yourself, and yeah, looking forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Sure thing. Just quickly share my screen.
Yep, we can say that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Warren, and thanks for inviting me today. Good afternoon to everyone, and thanks for being here. Today, I'll be walking you through a project that combines two of my favorite things, data and cricket. The aim today isn't just to show cricket stats or fancy visuals, but really to showcase what Power BI can do, from simple visualizations to more advanced features like dynamic query parameters, data flows, and eventually a bit of fabric. When I started this project way back in 2019, my main motivation wasn't just to build a cricket dashboard. It was really about learning new skills by pushing Power BI beyond what I used to do day to day at that time. For example, with Power Query, I could experiment with web scraping and then layering on parameterization to make it more dynamic. So it's been less of a one-off project, but more of a continuous learning journey that grew as I did. A little bit about me before we jump in. I've been working with Power BI for over 8 years now, and I'm also a Microsoft Certified Data Analyst Associate. I'm currently working with the Australian Communications and Media Authority as a Power BI specialist, and I've been in multiple federal government contracts since 2018, mainly working in data and analytics using Power BI. I'm a creative person at heart, and that's really why I built this cricket dashboard to blend my love of analytics and love of the game. So this all began during the 2019 World Cup. Like most fans, I was glued to the matches, but I also found myself wondering, what if I could actually build something related to cricket in Power BI and show off to my friends? I thought instead of just checking the news or commentary, could I pull together the stats and visuals in one place and maybe even find insights on players and teams, perhaps? Well, that question was really the spark. It wasn't about creating something polished from the start. It was all about experimenting, seeing what was possible, and learning as I went. That curiosity eventually grew into the very first version of the cricket dashboard. I didn't have access to live data at that time, so I was relying on some sample Excel dataset that someone had uploaded to kaggle.com. There wasn't a lot of data in it, but just enough player and match data to get started. But it gave me the chance to test out concepts like structuring visuals, experimenting with filters, and building some basic measures, really. This was the very first data model, and as you can see, it wasn't exactly a masterpiece. Um, it was flat, messy, not optimized at all. At that time, I was just happy that it worked, basically. Version 1 had big limitations. The data was static, which meant that by the time I built everything and put it out there, the data was already outdated and meaningless, at least for the purposes I wanted to build a cricket dashboard in the first place, and that it only had a sample of 149 players in it. And I started working on version 2. The key change was to move away from static data, obviously, and the idea was to build queries that could pull data, updated data player stats directly from source. So here you can see how I use Power BI's web connector, which allows us to do that. I could use Power Query to pull player stats directly from quickinfo.com by entering the URL of the page for batting by ear for one player. In this example, Hardik Pandya. Power BI is able to read the table on the web page, and that was a small win. I could now extract up-to-date player data. And therein lay the first challenge. How do I source updated stats for 149 players? That too across multiple formats like ODIs, T20s, tests. I surely do not want to write 450 queries. So the solution was to use something called the dynamic query parameters. It's a concept in Power Query where you write a logic for one player. You convert that query into a function accepting player ID. Load a reference file with all 149 players and invoke the function for each player ID in that reference list. Each call of the function returns stats for that player. So as you can see here, we first start off with creating a text parameter in Power Query. Here you can see how the advanced view of the web connector in Power Query allows you to split that URL into parts, allowing you to replace the player ID with the parameter created in the previous step, which then basically outputs a table like this. You have data here for one player, and obviously on the right hand side you can see the steps that I have written to really clean and shape that data and transform into the way I want to present it. So really the breakdown of that scraping data for one page looks something like this. So this is the scraping data for the stat batting by ear. You can see there's the initial query logic for one player ID, the text parameter underneath, the function, and lastly the main query that invokes that function to scrape data for the entire list of players. And that's the output of that page now. A multiple player list is there, and then you've got the data against each of that player. On the left, you can see the steps that have been applied, and that key is to invoke that custom function. So that's the pattern. And I repeated that pattern for different pages with different types of cricketing stats. As you can see, with each new page or stat I scraped, it added more and more queries. The list of queries grew rapidly, eventually slowing down the performance of my Power BI desktop. This also highlighted the inefficiency of this approach. However, since I only started noticing performance downfall maybe after writing about 50 queries, it was a bit too late for me to abandon this approach altogether and figure out ways of what I could do from there. And that was my next challenge. So say even if I extracted basic stats for the list of 149 players, I would need around 200 queries. The only option I had was to segregate different stat types to separate PBIXs. So this is what I ended up with. 4 separate PBIXs, although I knew I was going to hit another roadblock with this approach. I was now looking at multiple published data sets in the Power BI service with no direct way to consolidate data from them. So that was my next challenge. Since Power BI only supports connecting live to a single data set at a time, I turned to Excel as a bridge connecting to each data set eventually using Excel pivot tables. And to my surprise, it actually worked. So here you can see that in action. I was now able to connect to 4 published data sets and bring all the stats together from those data sets into a single unified Excel file. So this is what the structure actually looked like. So I had my 4 published data sets on the service. I was consolidating them using Excel Power Query. I was then importing that data into a Power BI desktop file, publishing it as a shared data set on back to the service, and then connecting live to it to build my report or the dashboard. And that was it. I now had up-to-date stats on my initial set of 149 players. But this approach had its own limitations. Excel Power Query couldn't be scheduled for automatic refresh, and scraping a large player list caused performance issues in Power BI Desktop that I mentioned a while ago. I now needed a more robust, scalable solution and enters data flows. This solution involved moving all my existing Power Queries from the 4 PBAccess files to data flows Gen 1, hence building a centralized ETL logic in the Power BI service. So this solution provided an improved refresh reliability and scalability for a larger data set in future. And there it was. My Gen 1 data flows were ready. Painstaking process because it wasn't very straightforward, but I got there. I was able to now scale up in terms of type of stats that I wanted to pull. And at the same time, I had more control over the list of players I wanted to focus on. So using the same approach, I was able to build an IPL version of the dashboard. Well, both these dashboards went live in early 2022 and basically ran on autopilot, refreshing daily until one day in July 2023 when I noticed one of my Power Queries started to fail. Upon some investigation, it turned out that quickinfo.com changed its page design, breaking my web scraping logic. And at the time, I was busy with many other priorities and couldn't fix the queries right away. Nevertheless, it highlighted the fragility of relying on HTML source for data extraction. I waited for a while when I had the bandwidth to really look at this again. And I wanted to make some major upgrades as well. I wanted to just not fix the broken scraping logic, but also to make the dashboard future ready, especially by integrating AI and machine learning capabilities. To this day, enter Fabric. Fabric provided a scalable, reliable foundation combining lakehouse, data engineering features, etc., etc. The goal was to build a more resilient, automated, and scalable solution, and for the long run. So my move from Power BI service to Fabric was about revamping the entire end-to-end architecture altogether. So as you could see, version 1 and 2 was simply one website scraped using Power Query, consolidated through data flows. Version 3 was now going to be much richer. I'm using Python Spark notebooks to scrape from multiple websites, that too, not just one. And Fabric gives me more flexible ingestion pipelines with direct output capabilities, say into Lakehouse tables. The centralized storage enables multiple downstream options such as flow my data into data warehouse, which then gives me the ability to run SQL queries on my data, which I always wanted from day one. But a move to Fabric also required me to build more robust, scalable approach to web scraping, as I mentioned. The solution was to upgrade web scraping from M to Python. As Python offers more better control over web requests, parsing, error handling, etc., I experimented with it on my laptop. So manually running Python code, and it worked. It worked to a stage where I thought let me experiment it by putting it in Fabric. It was a steep learning curve for me as I had limited Python experience at that time. So here I used AI assisted tools to help me write, debug, and optimize some scripts. This process evolved iterative testing, learning Python libraries like pandas, beautiful soup, etc. So the overall architecture was similar. I replaced M with Python. I replaced Dataflows Gen 1 with Gen 2. In terms of time and effort, it took maybe 8 weeks, a little more, to develop and stabilize just a handful of Python scripts. And obviously writing Gen 2 data flows to transform that data. Now here's a quick look at the task flow in Canvas in Fabric. It's a visual map of all data activities. Each block shows a step in the pipeline, how it's connected, and whether it's running smoothly. It makes managing, monitoring, troubleshooting, dashboard, data flow much easier. Here I have my Fabric monitor, tracking and all notebook runs, data flow refreshes, and more. Fabric is seamless. I'm loving it so far. After a steep learning curve, learning Python, and I'm glad that I am at the stage where I can finally see the data I wanted in my Power BI desktop. As you can see, I've gone from 149 players in version 2 to 1200 players in version 3. This is a mix of active and retired players. I have included many cricketing legends, greats in this version like Don Bradman, Sachin Tendulkar. And I've even built the logic to scrape data for new players as and when they make their debut and their data becomes available on these websites. They will flow directly into my data flows. Ultimately, my goal is to use machine learning to build a curated one-lake cricket dataset. And why? So while I have built a strong foundation, but the real power of Fabric is in how it lets us scale and innovate. So here are some of the future enhancements I'm aiming for. Example, scale transformations with PySpark. Imagine expanding web scraping to not only related data sources, but to things like social media accounts. Pull in that data into and mash it up with their stats and see what meaningful insights we can grab. Building predictive models using Azure machine learning, where users will be able to, build natural language insights, where users will be able to ask questions in plain English like, who has the best T20 average in the last 12 months? And instantly get some insights. I want to use AI image generation to create visuals. So I avoid relying on copyrighted images that I'm currently using, and much, much more. There's so much to explore with Fabric, and I want to keep on it. So to conclude, I would just like to say learning never stops. This dashboard has gone from Excel to Fabric and hopefully to AI. I didn't wait for perfection. So go ahead, build your own version 1, experiment and keep leveling up. And just like in cricket, every big score starts with the first run. That brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you all for your time and attention. I hope you enjoyed this mix of cricket and data as much as I enjoyed building it. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Sahil. I feel like you've shared your life story with us. It was beautiful, eh? What a journey. So no, really, really fascinating. I love how you've integrated, improved it, changed, learned Python just to get this thing to work. So really fascinating to see how you've progressed and built that out. So no, I really appreciate you sharing that with us. If there's any questions, you can raise your hand, or you can put it in the chat if you like. What would you do, Sahil, if ESPN just kind of, I don't know, changed everything? Like, is that a possibility where they just rebuilt their whole website?
That's a very good question, Warren. That's been the question on my mind since my dashboard really broke last time.
Hmm.
Although for the last 3 years they have been pretty stable with their table structures,
Yeah.
they really only changed one table, which was the main table that brought in all the player IDs.
Hmm.
And now I'm actually relying on a couple of other websites as well. Look, I've gone down the path of contacting Cricinfo to see if I can connect into their APIs. That didn't
Hmm.
go really anywhere. I
Yeah.
had to wait for a long time for them to respond, and there was another website that I contacted. They actually have a running API, but there's a cost involved to that.
Hmm.
So maybe I should be considering something like this. But look, since they've been stable for a while, I think I will continue with this. See where it takes me, and then eventually I may have to switch to APIs. But so far
Yeah.
so good.
Excellent. Um, Salman, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. I wanted to ask if the switch from Power BI to Fabric, did you do it like in personal capacity? I wanted to know kind of how you decided which Fabric capacity you need to use, what you looked at. And yeah, how do you think it's costly, reasonable or not? Because I'm just about to make a suggestion to our organization about shifting towards Fabric or not. And I'm trying to weigh, cost and benefit, to see if it gives me what we need in terms of cost efficiency and stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. No, that's a great question, Salman. So for me, Fabric was all about learning. It's not a commercial project. So for me, it was all about how do I learn Fabric, and this dashboard was one way that I could actually learn Fabric and Python and things like that. So that's my basic aim. Having said that, I had to move to a paid Power BI, the premium per user, way back in 2022. Reason being, I had to do that to be able to run dynamic query parameters in the service. The Pro version did not allow you to do that. So I already had to get onto a payment kind of a model for this dashboard back then. So all my work's been done on premium per user so far, and then there's obviously the free version of Fabric, the free upgrade that you can do, which is what I'm doing now. I think I'm getting a trial for 60 days. So I'm going to do as much as I can within those 60 days. And then obviously there's a Git integration where I can then back up all my code of my data flows, my Python notebooks, etc. On GitHub, back it up, and then I will at that point I will decide if I really want to start paying for Fabric. To be honest, I don't have much information about the payment plans. I know the cheapest option is in hundreds of dollars. I think it's about $400 if I'm not wrong. I could be wrong, but that's a brief check that I did. But as I said, my aim is to actually learn Fabric as much as I can, and then when time comes, I'll see what I really need to do. I really don't want to lose all my code, obviously. But yeah.
Thank you.
Mark, thank you. Mark has a question. Is this a publicly published
It is.
LBR report?
Yes, it is. Yes. I will actually share a link in the chat.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. I'm sure there's quite a few cricket fans who'd like to have a play with it.
Yeah.
Sandra has a question around Python. Were there any resources that you would recommend when you learned Python? And then part two of the question is what version? And do you have any concerns about newer versions of Python being rolled out?
Yeah, no, look, I'm no Python expert. As I said, I had little to no knowledge of Python before I jumped into writing some scripts. I used Claude AI and a little bit of ChatGPT to help me through this process. Yeah, a lot of to and fro, trying to understand how certain tables work differently, how pandas work with on desktop differently to how it works on Fabric. I didn't really go through any training myself. I just relied on chatting with chatbots and understanding how I can actually get what I want to do. It's an evolving process. I still have there are some complex tables that I haven't been able to scrape. So I've kept my learning to be practical with what I'm doing. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole and lose what I would really want to do. I just want to have enough there for me to move and explore all the things that are in Fabric, like data lake houses and building queries, etc., etc. So you could go down that path where you just learn using something what I'm doing, just having a website, scraping it using and Claude AI is pretty good. It actually explains what it is doing in the code, not only just writes the code for you, because eventually you will have to understand the concept of Python. So that's what I did.
Excellent. Any other questions? Thank you, CEO. Appreciate it. Again, apologies, everyone. I know there's some issue that's happening with Teams. I'll try to rectify that. If anyone's got any advice, I think I might have to move on to another product. This is the second time we've had issues with people not being able to join. So apologies again for that. Congratulations to Stephen Lowe, ChatGPT. We were just talking about LLMs. ChatGPT selected you as the winner. So if you can send me your details, and I will send you that book in the mail. But otherwise, thank you everyone for attending. Again, if you need any support in the Power BI space, training, report development, please do get in touch. But it's been a pleasure to have you here for the 18th Power BI for Government. We'll probably run another one, I'd say November. So if you have a presentation that you'd like to give and you'd like to share, we all love to learn from you. So if you have any presentation, please reach out. Otherwise, I'll catch you again in November. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.